Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. Apart from the obvious, and it is a close contender, nothing gives me more pleasure than watching Nigel Farage embarrass himself on national TV. Because what does he even do now? His whole thing throughout his career has been nationalism. Britain must come first. Britain's interests, Britain's national security must come first. But Donald Trump, the man who he supported for the best part of a decade, is now objectively damaging British security. Because Trump is supporting Vladimir Putin. Because what does Putin want? He wants a divided Europe so he can pick off each country one at a time, and he wants America to stay out of it. Which is why Putin doesn't want Ukraine joining NATO or the EU, just like Trump. Which is why Putin supported the UK leaving the EU, just like Trump. And now Trump is explicitly saying that European security, not that much of a concern for him.
And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between. And they don't.
And that's on top of Trump pushing the exact same propaganda that Russia's been using to justify their invasion of Ukraine. And because Nigel Farage has been supporting Donald Trump, Sky News' James Matthews was like, hey, what's up with your boy?
Farage, do you condemn Donald Trump's remarks?
Do I?
Well, no, do you condemn Donald Trump calling Vladimir Zelensky a dictator?
I applaud President Trump for launching peace negotiations.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin often refers to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a dictator, because he wants to undermine the legitimacy of him so he can replace him with somebody who's a lot more friendly towards Russia. So questioning Zelensky's legitimacy is part of Russia's war propaganda. And Nigel Farage knows this, so here's how he responds.
Do you think Volodymyr Zelensky is a dictator?
No, of course. I mean, don't be ridiculous.
So he rose back from saying that Zelensky is a dictator, but he still says this.
Zelensky, whether you like him or not, has to have elections at some point in time.
So he's still backing up Trump in questioning the democratic legitimacy of the Ukrainian president, which is Russian war propaganda.
Donald Trump has called Zelensky a dictator. Is that ridiculous?
If that's what he thinks, that's what he thinks.
So he's accepting that Donald Trump is pushing the idea that Zelensky is a dictator. So he's happy to support somebody who is parroting the propaganda of Russia, a country that is actively hostile towards the UK.
Take everything Trump says, not literally, truthfully, but not literally. And you guys, this is typical of UK media, you're hung up on the use of a word. He's launched a peace process that might save hundreds of thousands of lives.
This is the line you'll hear from Nigel Farage and a lot of Trump supporters, that we shouldn't take him literally, but truthfully, that he might say the wrong words, but he's pushing in the right direction. But even if you wanted to accept that Donald Trump was just exaggerating, he's exaggerating in the wrong direction, because Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, was democratically elected, whereas Vladimir Putin is the actual dictator. Russia, the country where if you oppose Vladimir Putin, you get killed or jailed. Yet Trump and Farage are questioning the democratic legitimacy of the Ukrainian president, not the Russian one. So do you see how the man who paints himself as standing up for the interests of the UK is just siding with Russia, one of our clear enemies? But here's my favorite example of taking Trump literally versus truthfully, because Nigel Farage actually gets caught in the lie.
So let's look big picture. And the big picture is that Trump is doing a great job.
Do you think Ukraine started the war?
I mean, read the words carefully. He doesn't literally say Ukraine started the war.
This was Donald Trump talking about the fact that he didn't invite Ukraine to his talks with Russia.
And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine.
So he explicitly said that Ukraine should have never started the war. And yet Nigel Farage is saying that Trump never said that Ukraine started the war, which is why he then had to back down.
Vladimir Putin started the war.
Didn't he? Didn't he say literally that Ukraine started the war? Are you saying that he didn't?
Okay, he did. If you're happy, he did. Do you think it's good we got peace negotiations?
Well, it's not a question about anybody being happy.
Was that as good for you as it was for me? See, the reason why you're seeing this tension between what Trump says and what Nigel Farage says is because they have the same agenda, but Nigel Farage has to say it more subtly. It's the same reason that Farage didn't want the Reform Party to be associated with Tommy Robinson, even though Elon Musk wanted him to, because Farage knows that we British like our racism to be a lot more subtle than that. But never forget, they have the same agenda, they're just saying it in different ways. It reminds me of something that a TikToker said recently.
And if you can only recognize reactionary, dangerous, fascist rhetoric when it's being screamed by an ugly man with a bad spray tan, then you're not very good at recognizing it.
And that's why Nigel Farage is essentially having to translate what Trump really meant.
Putin started the war. We all know that. What he's talking about are the causal factors that go back for years. You know what they are. I know what they are. Hey.
That's Nigel Farage doing what he's always done, which is parroting Russian propaganda that Russia had to invade Ukraine because Ukraine was getting too close to the West, too close to NATO, and Russia couldn't afford to have such a strong military base on its border. This is the definition of victim blaming, because he's saying that Ukraine, who never attacked Russia, is responsible for Russia attacking Ukraine. And here's where that gets even more crazy, because he brings this up.
I alone predicted the war in 2014.
So he's saying that in 2014 he warned that if Ukraine got too close to the West, Russia would invade Ukraine. But in 2014, Russia did invade Ukraine. They took Crimea. So Nigel Farage's reaction to Russia taking part of Ukraine was to tell Ukraine to not get any closer to the West, basically saying the West should effectively abandon Ukraine after Russia has just taken part of Ukraine. Nigel Farage could not be more of a Putin glazer if he tried, but at least he's making it clear to everybody how much of a liar he is. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.